If you're ready for some moody spring inspiration, stay tuned. Now these projects can be used all year round, and the techniques in this video can be used on daily projects. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to be heating up my molds that I have pre-made using the amazing casting resin. I get mine from Amazon. I'll have that linked in the description box below. Then I'm going to be adding this triple Titebond thick glue and a little bit of hot glue so it'll instantly hold as soon as I put my molds down. Now the reason that I heat up the molds is so that they will form to whatever project I'm using. You can do that with the amazing casting resin or resin, but you can't if you use clay, so I just make up some pre-made ones with the resin. We're going to go ahead and paint both of these just pieces of junk that I've pulled out of my stash. One is an old stamp block. The other one is actually a thrifted piece of, well, it's mostly just a piece of wood. There's no hanger. It's got a little painting. And we're just going to be painting these with some black paint. I'm using Little Black Dress in DIY, but you can go ahead and use any kind of paint. Once we get these painted, I will seal these before we move on to the next step. I'm going to be leaving the center of these white or the mold color because we're going to take a few colors of paint such as cream, white, and some minty sort of green. It's Apothecary and DIY, but you know, if you have colors similar, just use those or mix them to match. What we're going to be doing is giving this kind of a green, beigey, white, cloudy look for the background. Because you're going to be able to see the background, I want it to reflect this cool color. As you can see, I'm not being real neat here. It's not necessary. We can go in later and kind of clean that up, and we're going to be adding something else to this that's going to blend those two colors together. Before we move on to the next step, I do want to go ahead and seal this because once I put my sticker down and I seal it, I want the paint underneath to match the paint. So if I don't seal this with the DIY paint, it does darken when you seal it. So say I didn't seal this and I put my sticker on and then I sealed on top of the sticker and I sealed the paint that was left, the paint around the sticker would be darker than the paint under the sticker, if that makes sense. So I'm just sealing this area first and not really worrying about the rest of the piece right now. We're going to work on that here in a little bit. Alright, so here is the sticker I'm going to be using. I was very skeptical when I ordered these. I ordered them from Temu. You can definitely get stickers and transfers from IOD. They have some beautiful ones. You can get some from Amazon, Prima. Pick whatever stickers or transfers you want to use. I love Temu, but you know, that's a personal choice. So this sticker is a rose and I want to cut this down to fit in one of my frames. When I pulled these off, I was worried because they are very sheer. But look at that. When I put it down on there, the colors popped so beautifully. And you all, this sticker was 60 cents on Temu. Yes, for that very large, it's almost like a 12 by 12. So the funny thing about this is it's under toilet decals. So they are showing these on white toilet tanks or toilet lids. I've ordered quite a few. We're going to be working with these some, and you know, if you're interested, go to Temu. So I just made sure that my sticker was very smooth, and I'm going to just trim around the edges of it with a knife. I go ahead and do the other one identical off camera using a different rose so that I don't bore you all to death. And what we're going to do is go ahead and touch up some of that paint that is around this. Now that I have my sticker on and I kind of see where it's going, I'm just going to take that black and just go around. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect because, like I said, we are going to use something that's going to blend this in together, make those frame pops. I'm sure you all can guess in advance. It's one of my favorite things to use. I use all the time. If you guessed Rub and Buff, you guessed correct. So I did start out with some antique gold in the Rub and Buff, and I switched over to that beautiful autumn gold. I started out using my finger, and then I just switched on over to a brush because I really wanted to get down in some of those crevices, and a brush does a really great job of doing that. Plus it gives a light or a lighter touch than the finger does to feather the Rub and Buff out. I want to take this time to thank all of my subscribers and welcome all of the new ones. You all have really been active in the comment section. We've had some great conversations. I really enjoy that. Comment on this video and let me know you're around, you're watching. Leave me an emoji. If you don't want to type anything, I totally get it. Leave me anything, a smiley face, a heart. Any of that really helps my channel. If you're not subscribed and you keep watching my videos, why not subscribe? Join us. We love junk here. We love to make things out of junk, and we love a lot of different types of styles here on this channel, so there's something for everyone. So let's get back into this project. I have just pulled out some of my black wax because some of my rub and buff is a little bright and I want to tone that back. You can also kind of erase some of that if you feel like you got too much with this black wax and help tone it back some. It is definitely a balance with the rub and buff, especially for me because I can get very heavy-handed with it. So again, just using this to kind of tone it back. I put a couple sawtooth hangers on the back of these so they could be hung. I thought about hanging them with some type of polka dot ribbon, but I restrained myself, and I really do like how these turned out. You guys will have to let me know what you think. This next project, I have had this for a long time. I keep it out in my sunroom with propagating plants in it. Just put some water in there and let cut-offs grow out of it. But I cleaned it out and I thought we would make a project for a really neat display, you know, for a little while. And I saw some inspiration from Pinterest. So what I'm going to do is put different layers in this tube, and I've saw people do spices with this, just different things. You could do jewelry, lace, but I want mine to be a little earthy, so I'm going to use some of the things I have on hand. So the first is some of these white rocks that are from Dollar Tree. I'm putting about an inch, a little bit over, in the bottom, and then I'm going to grab some of this stuff that I've gotten out of my own woods. You know, we used some of this in a video a couple videos ago to make some really earthy looking things. So I'm getting the lichen, L-I-C-H-E-N, off of this bark. Someone told me that was what that was called. I couldn't think of the name of it, but I'm just peeling some of that off and putting a small layer above the white rocks of it before we move to the next layer. I'm just going to use one of my wood rods, or I can't think of the name of them. I can never think of anything when I am doing a voiceover, to kind of shove the stuff down in because I want it packed a little bit so that it looks like layers, you know, built up versus just sparsely laying down in there. Now the next layer is going to be some of this moss. You can definitely find moss in your own backyard, but I have gotten some, and it is, I see why this moss is expensive, because not only does it have a lot of dirt on the back, you really have to clean it, and it's a lot of work involved. So that's why moss is quite expensive. So we're just going to use a little bit of this to make our third layer for our kind of nature inspired spring looking display is what I'm calling this. That was a lot of words, right? The next layer is these little shell like things I pulled out of my stash. Now you could use crushed up eggshells for this. That would be a great replacement. I have several colors of these. I've used the sage in projects before with you all, and now we're going to use this sort of peachy color and sort of a mustard color. And I'm just going to pour some in each tube of different colors. I think I end up using the sage in one of the tubes as well, and give that just a little bit of a layer. What I want is contrasting. So I did the white rock, and then I did the green moss, and now I'm doing like a lighter color above the green moss, and so on and so forth to get the layers how I want them. Now these are just going to serve a purpose for display, to look neat and to have specimens. They're not necessarily something that is going to be producing anything. I mean, obviously you definitely could put a plant down in here and a little bit of water on top of these for sure. These could be a base for a plant to grow on, but I'm not doing that. I'm just using some of the dried florals that I have in my stash. The next layer is just the whole top of the tube, and it's going to be these little sort of pink dried flowers. They are definitely falling apart. I got them and the green ones in a big thing of thrifted florals, and that is some real eucalyptus that's dried as well. The only thing here that is not thrifted is the little brown flowers that I end up using. Those came out of my woods on my property. So once we get one of kind of each of these, I do go back because I forgot one of the main elements that I'm doing this for, and you'll see that coming up. I have 3 more projects coming up, and the last one is definitely questionable. I'm interested to know your all's comments on it because I am definitely on the fence. Okay, so I almost forgot the butterfly wings. I wanted each tube to have a wing on it, and I had these butterfly stickers. Some of them I've had in my stash from, it's been a long time, but I know you can get stuff like this on Amazon, Temu, and even from the Dollar Tree. All I did was cut one side of the butterfly off, and I'm just sticking it down in the center of the tube because I want it to look like there is a butterfly wing in there. Now I did have to take out the florals and use this long set of tweezers to get my little butterfly wing down in there, but it's okay. It turned out gorgeous, just the way I thought it would. I went ahead and did one more of these on camera for you guys, and the third one I did do off camera. Now these were not the easiest to photograph, but I hope you get at least what I was aiming for by looking at these photos that I did take of them, and interested to see what you guys think of these. These next 2 projects, I've really been wanting to use cans on something to make wall pockets with IOD molds, or just molds in general. So I have these not really small cans, they're a little bit of a medium size. I'm just showing you, sorry the camera's shaking, but I want to show you how I use my rubber mallet from Dollar Tree to smash these. Now I start out smashing the end that doesn't have the sharp edge. These cans have the pull tab on them, so I'm just flipping that around and putting the sharp edge on the bottom. Both ends are going to be smashed in a little bit, but you want the top to be more rounded, like a pocket to hold whatever you put in it. I'm going to be putting some greenery in mine, not necessarily flowers, because the flowers I thought would contrast a little bit too much with what I used on these cans. To start out with, we're going to need to paint these a neutral color, so I'm just using some white paint and some beige paint, kind of mixing them together and giving these a good coat. I do go down a little bit inside the can and a little bit around the edges, but I don't paint the back because you're not going to see that. Once I get the coverage I want, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. Now, I should have just added my molds before I did this, but I always forget to do that. I mean, it's fine. The glue will stick just fine to the paint. This is a clay-based paint. I usually use clay or chalk base on things like this, metal and glass. I'm grabbing some of my pre-made molds. I'm going to heat those up, make sure they are rounded enough, and then I'm going to add some Titebond glue and some hot glue. The hot glue helps temporarily get it attached, and the Titebond will keep it on there for a very long time. Once I get that done, I'm going to go ahead and clamp those and let those dry. Now that our molds are dried and our paint is dried, we are going to use this IOD Le Courrier stamp. I love this thing. It's gorgeous. We're going to use this as a background on top of that paint that we have started for our main background. Now I use the stone gray because I don't want this to be overpowering. I will apologize, I had my camera in close for something from one of the other projects and forgot to move it back out. Now you can still see everything pretty much, but it's a very close-up view, so I apologize for that. All I'm doing is putting that ink pad onto the stamp, and then I'm just kind of trying to do my best to get it straight. I don't get it straight, so I'm not really sure why I even tried, but it's okay because in the larger scheme of things, once we get our picture on there and other things, it's not going to be that noticeable. And remember, these are handmade things, and that's what makes them unique, is that they are not perfectly stamped from a machine. So I'm just going over each little area and pulling that off. So see, it's not too crooked, but you know, we are also stamping on sort of a curved, and actually this is not even curved, it's sort of in and out because, you know, it's been hit with a hammer and it's not perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off that one area because we're going to use a different area for the other can. Doing the same thing, just lightly stamping on there. I make sure that I have plenty of ink on my pads before I start stamping. And doing the same thing, we're just gonna take our fingers and lightly press over, trying to hit the areas pretty good. It doesn't matter if you don't have it all completely stamped because this is just a background. It is not the main feature of this project. So in staying with the whole sticker thing that we had in our very first two projects, we're going to use another sheet of the stickers that I have. Now, I wanted to explain some things about these stickers. They're very thin. They're very see-through, they're very sticky, and they are cut around the actual shape when you pull them off, but I am taking my scissors and cutting even closer. If you don't, you still can hardly see the clear outline of the sticker outside of the edge of the image on your project. And these don't look like stickers on your project. Number one, because they have this sort of a matte finish. They're not very thick, so they blend in very well. And then I matte coat the whole thing so that's all the same finish. So they don't look like a sticker. They really do look like transfers. You know, if they look like a sticker, I would be like, you guys, these really look like a sticker. They're very thick. They're not. I'm just so impressed with these. I mean, I'm not saying they're this huge quality, hard. No, I mean, definitely if you pulled on them, they would tear, but I'm using them like a transfer, and they are actually mimicking a transfer. So we're going to use a butterfly on one, and then we're going to use some florals on the other. I don't want these identical, but I want them similar. So as I place this down on the can, where it has ridges, I'm going to take my finger and just rub through the ridges because I want this to blend in with the can. I don't want it to lay on top, and to do that, I'm using my fingertip and my nail to make sure that that sticker gets all down in those ridges, and because it is very thin, it does exactly that. Then I'm going to cut all my extra off. I do go back and take another part of a leaf and do that corner kind of over the butterfly. I take some parts of the sticker and add some florals to the rest of this to blend in with my butterfly. I go ahead and get all that trimmed up, and I do add those leaves off camera and another butterfly. I felt like you guys saw plenty of that. Now we're going to take this Monet's Garden. I really want to bring out that very dark green in both of these images. We're going to paint those molds, this Monet's Garden, and let that dry. I do end up trimming the edges of both of these molds to the length of the can. I know some of them still not trimmed yet. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I wasn't thinking. I was just, you know, kept going, and I had to end up going and heating that end and trimming it. But it's fine. It worked out. I had to glue the end and clamp it because I had not done that. I had not gotten it clamped good, but, you know, I don't know. When I do projects and I miss stuff like that and I'm watching it on film, I'm like, what was I thinking? Apparently I wasn't thinking. I love this color of green. Now mine is very watered down because It was really thick. I hadn't used it in a while. And the thing about the DIY Debbie's Design Diary clay paint is if it dries up at all or gets thick, you can just add water to it and thin it out. So I added mine was very thick. So I added a lot of water on top of it and let it sit. And I actually added too much water, but it will continue to thicken up over time. And it really was almost like a stain, and you see how dark that was. That stuff is so pigmented. That's why I love the product, and that's why I sell it in my booth, my vendor booth. Okay, so we're gonna add some lace to the bottom of these, and to do that, I'm gonna use some hot glue and kind of wrap it around the bottom a little bit to cover up the bottom of that can, because it's not sealed all the way and it's a little warped. What we're going to do is add these to some boards to make them into some wall pockets. Now these boards I'm getting ready to show you, I had pre-painted these for a different project and stuck them back in my cabinet. One is white, one is black. They're both going to be black because I want the background to be black on these. Once I got those painted and sealed, you have to seal the DIY paint. We're going to use them and put these wall pockets on here. Now I didn't tell you that I did go ahead and put a clear coat of matte on both of my cans and those molds. We're not finished with the molds. It's not going to stay that green, but I'm going to go ahead and add these to the pieces of wood with some very short screws because I want them to be permanent. I don't want to use glue. I just think that would not be a very good way to add these. I think a screw is going to work perfectly. Well, a couple screws. I just used my drill and I had used some chalk to mark off where my cans needed to stay on the bottom and the top, and I think these turned out pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add some of that beautiful autumn rub and buff. So the green, even though I love it like it is, it's going to change for more toned down look. I'm going to be using a combination of my fingers and a brush to do these because they're very intricate. I want to point out that I do make sure that I tilt this up and get underneath, not necessarily underneath, but on the edges of that mold, because what we want is that mold to blend in with its surroundings, not just look like it's a clear cut green and straight to that tan or beige or whatever you want to call it. So I'm taking that rub and buff and I'm kind of shadowing around all the corners, bringing it from the back underneath and around, so when you look at the side it blends. And once we do that, we're going to go ahead and drag it across like the butterflies and some of the florals. I'm going to use it on the black just like I did the rest or the first two projects, up with the black wax to tone some of it back. Oh my goodness, some of it back. It is 5 a.m. and I am recording. I have not been to bed yet, but I work this weekend, so I will sleep most of the day tomorrow and then work tomorrow night. I'm going to leave quite a bit of this in here. I do have it sped up, so if you guys want to let me know if you'd like for me to leave this stuff in here this long. I feel like it's very monotonous, but I'm the one doing it. I would definitely be interested. I'm just taking the black wax here, starting that process of kind of toning things back and erasing some that I feel like it's too matchy or just too thick. Now what we're going to do with these coming up is we're going to be using some greenery, and I don't use any flowers in these. I just felt like that flowers might overpower the butterflies and florals on the front. I definitely would love to know your thoughts on that because I worry about putting too many things like bows and flowers and overdoing, because I can overdo. I overdo a lot just with paints and products. So I don't want to do that with bows and ribbon and florals and things like that. So I definitely like other people's perspectives. So what I'm using is mostly Dollar Tree florals here, or greenery, with the ferns. I love ferns. They're some of my favorite plants, and I know they have different names. I don't know specifically what the names are of these. If you do and you want to drop in the comments, absolutely feel free to, but I don't know exactly what they are. We're just going to be using them, and I love the way they look. Are you all still thinking about the last project? So I'm just going to tell you, I don't know that I even like it. Generally, if I don't care for something, I don't say I don't like it. I just say it's not my favorite, or I think I'm not even going to put it in the video, but then I do, and you guys are like, oh my gosh, I love that. The red rolling pin, that was one that I was not going to put in the video with that toile paper, and everybody, that was the most comments I got. So we'll see about this one. And I've never had one of these in my home. It's nothing special, but it's very common. So I'm interested to see. All right, so we're almost finished with this. Let me know what you think of this one in the comment section below. I cleaned up the back of these. I didn't paint them. I just cleaned up the extra paint off with sandpaper, and I added a sawtooth hanger to both of them so they could hang on the wall. So this last project is a book stack. Yes, I've never had one of these in my house, not a made one. I have tons of vintage books in stacks with items on them for vignettes and height and just to read, but never one of the mainstream book stacks that you stamp and, you know, have all that stuff. And I like them. I honestly, I don't know why I've never had one, but I thought I would make one and do more of a moody with the black. I saw some for inspiration on Pinterest. They actually had molds on the edge of them, but I just went ahead and painted mine black. And I do end up leaving some of the page color through and not making them solid black. We end up kind of gluing them together so they don't fall apart. I'm going to tie these together, so really it doesn't matter if they're glued together. But these books were falling apart. Their covers would come off of them. They were really old. One of them was super boring, nothing important. So I thought, well, we'll just go ahead and make one of these kind of raw book stacks. So I got it painted black, let that dry. I've kind of put some hot glue to keep them held together. I've dug through my stamps and got some smaller wording, moths or butterflies and things like that. And now I'm just using this Petticoat Pink DIY paint, and I'm rolling it in a thin coat on these stamps, and I'm going to stamp the edges of these. I don't really do anything to the tops. Maybe I should have. But like I said, you guys will have to let me know what you think about this one. I go ahead and stamp these edges and just get a few things on here. This big book is great. It has plenty of room to stamp something on, but the two little ones, they don't really have much of a spine left. So I do add a little bit of text, and we do add some of this paint, just kind of like pat it on, just so it'll give it a little bit of a contrasting from the stamping. Once I finish up with that stamping, I go ahead and give the whole set of books and even the edges a good clear matte coat to seal that paint in, because it's the DIY paint, looks very dry if it's not sealed. So now we've got it sealed up, and we're gonna be adding some hot glue here just to help the stability. Now, unless you go page by page or a large section by section, if this gets dropped, I mean, it's definitely, some of the pages could flip open. So I just do a good job of just gluing the books together, and I glue several thick pieces together and just the top pages, but we're going to tie this to give it its main source of stability. So I just dug through my stash, and I grabbed some of my lace it's a piece that came off of some shorts. I've used it in other videos. This is, I think, the very last piece of this, and I'm going to tie this together. And I'd gotten some other kind of mauve-y ribbon out because I want to kind of match that pink stamping, and I end up taking the lace back off and putting them both together and then tying them in one piece. I do a double knot for this, and I don't put a bow on here because, like I said, I was just kind of not doing any bows. I'm probably going to go into like a video later on where I just do bows on everything. I don't know. I'm not a bow person. This pink and this stuff is kind of frilly for me anyways that I've been doing recently, but I do love it. I don't know. I kind of just do what I like. So what I'm going to do is add some of those dried florals. I got inspiration from the test tube thing that we did earlier. So what I'm doing is just wrapping some of this, oh gosh, I can't think of the name of this. So it's almost 6 o'clock now in the morning, so please forgive me. You know what this stuff is. We use it all the time in crafting, but I'm just going to cut this down and wrap some twine around the base of this, kind of like I'm doing a little boutonniere almost, and then we're going to stick it in that ribbon and that lace tie and add those just really beautiful blush colored Dollar Tree flowers to this with some hot glue. And I think that's all I do to this. Okay, so you guys, I'm sitting here cracking up, and I know it's because it's late, but I actually like this. Now that I'm watching this on video, I literally like this thing. So I don't know, maybe I was just like so sick of making projects. I struggled with this video. I struggled with the last one. You know, I think we all get in these ruts sometimes, and I've been in my rut where I've just had these great ideas and then I start making them and I'm like, blah, you know, blah. This is just, so I do like this now. So thank you, video. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I am going to bed, and I will see you in the next video. Comment below and I'll talk to you before then.